Let's go straight to the press conference.
Third for McLaren. Michael, that was a truly dominant drive. The first 2 stints of the race, you were pulling away at almost precisely 1 second a lap. Masterful.
Yeah, I mean, we were about 1 second ahead in qualifying yesterday. Sort of wasn't 100% clear what it's going to be in the race, whether we maybe fall back in the race a little bit over the distance, which we have seen in the past several times. But then I have to say that the tyres Bridgestone has developed have performed very well in qualifying, which was a little bit lacking last race, but kept their consistency for the race, and that's something obviously we're very happy about. And then our car especially is obviously simply the right circuit for it. I mean, our guys, our team, they have done a tremendous job over winter time, and again, as I said, this circuit shows really what our engineers have done.
Now, Rubens Barrichello, your teammate, didn't even make the start. He had, I believe, gear selection problems. You had a hydraulic problem at the end of the warm-up this morning. Did you have any concerns that you might be on the sidelines too as well?
Yeah, obviously, as we had the problem with Rubens, we sort of tried to take care about whatever he have done. I don't actually know 100%, but we sort of did a safe pit stop and did certain things a little bit more careful in order to make sure not to happen the same thing. But yeah, it's sort of really bad luck for Rubens. I mean, everything has gone wrong this year so far, has gone wrong for him. But you sort of can't really think it will always go that way. You have to, you know that one day it's going to hit yourself. We simply hope and try our best not to let it happen. And again, sorry for Rubens.
Michael, thank you. Juan Pablo in the points for the first time in a while, but a long way behind Michael.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty difficult race for us, and I think we made the best of what we had. In the pits, we hit, I hit one of my crew chief, and hopefully he's all right. I heard actually he's all right, so a bit of a sorry there. But apart from that, the race went pretty well. We struggled all weekend with pace, and I think I gotta say I'm very pleased actually to get out of here with second place.
Now, you've touched on your problem at the second pit stop, but what exactly happened? It looked as though the lollipop man lifted his lollipop just that little bit too soon.
Yeah, I think he lifted it because he thought I could go, and he tried to stop me actually with his body. It was, I managed to pull the clutch in as fast as I could, but I already had run over him, and that was it really.
Thanks very much, Juan Pablo. David, starting 7th on the grid, did you ever think you might be up here in the unilateral conference in 3rd place?
Well, I knew it would only come through other people having problems, and clearly that's what happened today. The only battle I really had was with Jensen, and then after the first pit stop I was able to overtake him down into the first corner. But other than that, we were just sort of having a lonely battle. So I benefited from other people's misfortune, but you accept that because that's motor racing.
Now, this morning we saw Mark Webber's rear wing come off on the start-finish straight. Early in the race, your teammate Kimi Räikkönen, he had his rear wing collapse. What did the team tell you while you were still lapping out there on the circuit?
Well, they didn't tell me anything. It was quite obvious what had happened, and there's no reason to pull the car out or for me to be worried about it because we haven't had a wing failure this year at all. Obviously they'll look at the remains of what's actually there and try and understand exactly why it failed, whether it was fatigue or whether it was manufacturing. But unfortunately those are just the stresses and strains that are on Grand Prix cars. Occasionally they fail.
Let's go straight to Patrick Head, waiting to talk to us now, the technical director at Williams. Good afternoon, Patrick.
Good afternoon, Jim.
How is your man Carl Gaydon and his left foot?
Well, Carl's a hard man, and normally at weekends he's riding up Snowdon on a mountain bike with a bag of bricks on his back, so he'll survive. I think he's got a slightly bruised foot, but pride is more damaged than body, I think.
How did you read that incident in your pits there?
Well, I think we'll have to talk about it in detail because I don't know exactly what happened, but somehow Juan Pablo, maybe Carl moved the board up a bit early while the fuel was still engaged. I don't really know, but whatever it was, Juan Pablo moved before the fuel was disengaged and before Carl was out the way, but it may well be that he'd been given a signal that suggested he should. So we'll obviously talk about it and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Okay, thanks for that, Patrick. Could you explain to us exactly what happened to Ralf Schumacher?
Well, we weren't in a position to take the battle to Ferrari here, and so second and third was the best we could expect, really. And Ralf was sort of in good shape, just in front of Juan Pablo. We did the first pit stops, and then a few laps after the first pit stop, I think the car got away from Ralf, and he went off. Ripped off the turning vanes, or most of the turning vanes, in amongst the front suspension that conditions the airflow off the front wing, and he felt when he got back on the track that he'd got a broken front wing. In fact, it wasn't, it was these turning vanes, but we changed the front wing, changed the tyres, sent him out again. He was lapping quite slowly, and at the next stop we put a different type of front wing on to try and compensate, but his race was over, really. His
race was ruined, wasn't it? Just a couple of a technical one for you, really. How do you explain the wings flying off throughout the weekend here in Spain?
Well, I mean, obviously we saw a couple of front wings and a rear wing on the Minardi, and then the one on the back of the McLaren. I mean, I couldn't say anything about anyone in detail because I don't know any of the parts, but certainly here the aero loadings are pretty high, and there's a lot of rumble strips, and that gives you a lot of lateral vibrations. So when they're stressed, you have to allow for the aerodynamic force, but also for the lateral vibration as well. And presumably somewhere in there hasn't been adequate allowance. But as I say, I'm commenting without actually seeing the components.
We appreciate your insight as always, Patrick. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah.
Okay, let's go and have a word with Adrian Newey now, shall we? He's waiting to talk to us in the pit with our reporter, and it's Ted Kravitz.
Adrian, can you tell us what happened to Kimi's wing, first of all?
Well, we're going to have to go through it in a little bit more detail, but it looks like a structural failure of the end rib in the lower wing, which caused the whole upper wing to collapse.
So a structural failure. Were you worried that might happen to David's car?
Worried, yes. We looked at the mileage sheets. We think it's a fatigue failure, and
in a couple of weeks' time after this, off we go to Austria. The full ITV service throughout the weekend on this channel. Qualifying live 11:30 on the Saturday. The race just after midday on Sunday. Highlights at 11:45. We have seen a few wings flying around the Catalunya circuit. No chance, though, of anyone clipping the wings of our flyaway winner, Michael Schumacher. Bye-bye to you all.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One, the website address, sponsored by Toyota, is itv.com/.